So yeah, cool. All right, we'll get back on track here. So the Atheist Experience this last week finally made it to episode 1000, finally, as though that was the goal from the onset, but it's still very cool. I'm curious, you had mentioned it a few episodes ago. Did anybody come up with a number, how many of those 1,000 episodes you've been in?
Yes, actually, somebody walked in with a spreadsheet of a count of how many shows I've done, and how often I had hosted with various people and hosts. It's like there's one episode with Vic Stinger, and then there's another, Tracy and I think Dawn are the two that I've done the most. And so there's all this stuff in spreadsheets and everything else. I don't remember the exact number. I think it's somewhere between I think it's around 380 something that I had done.
So roughly a third, yeah. I mean, in that area.
It feels like more than that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we got to 1,000 because there are episodes that are lost that we, don't have access to, and so it's a really good line in the sand.
Right.
There were years where I did somewhere between 45 and 50 episodes in a single year. So basically, I was the only host, and I was here almost every week. And we take a couple weeks off a year. We don't do, normal TV show is going to do 18 episodes to 26 episodes a year, and we're on probably 46 to 50 weeks of the year. Right. So yeah, somebody did the math on all that, and I've done a lot. It feels like a lot. It feels like more, but I'll do another 300 if people want.
I think they will. Now, is that the hard line? Is 1,300 and then you're done?
No, I have no hard line. I leave the show when the Atheist Community of Austin says, hey, we don't want you on the show anymore, or when my life gets to a point where I no longer think that where the show is the right space for me. If I'm, a lot of this, there's tons of feedback, and I'm constantly trying to do better. Mm-hmm. If I get to a point where I don't think I'm interested in doing better, I'm done. And I don't know when that'll happen.
And that part's actually coming back here toward the end of the interview. The interview's supposed to get slightly more, I'll use the word intense, as it goes on. So in talking about the 1,000, is there something about the format that prevents, because you said you don't have a hard line, which implies at least that it doesn't burn you out too much? Is there something about, I feel like I've watched you answer the same questions. I've heard you give some of the same arguments 100 different times, I think, by now. Do you ever get burnt out, or is that maybe where some of the impatience comes from when you do get pissed off? Because it's like, seriously, again, or what's going on there?
Not really. So it's weird because one of my pet peeves I've always said is having to repeat myself. But what I mean by that is if I'm talking to an individual and I've explained myself multiple times, now it's in the pet peeve realm. When I'm doing the show, I try to keep in my mind that for somebody, this is their first time seeing the show. And I play a number of games in my head. One of the games is, from the time they start talking, I try to predict where it's going. Because if I can accurately do that, that means that I've got a handle on things. And if they surprise me, now I've learned something new and I get that moment of surprise. Another thing that I try to do is, if I know I've answered a particular or addressed a particular issue in a certain way, or maybe 3 or 4 different ways, I try to find a new way. Because if it turns out that has a different result, either during the call or in a follow-up email or whatever else, now I have a better understanding of what's likely to have an impact on people.
Right.
There are some things, I go to slavery all the time because I think it's both intuitively and emotionally obvious that there's a problem there, and I like to watch the tap dance because there's no way around this. There's no good way to rehabilitate what the Bible has to say about it. But there are other things too, and it's why with the Atheist Debates Project I'm doing videos on women in the Bible and arguments and stuff. But no, I got warned early on that people were afraid, oh, you're doing too much, you're going to burn out. And the truth is, for whatever reason, all I want to do is more. I'm actually considering, I've got this show. For a while, I was doing the Atheist Experience and the nonprofits. Now I'm just doing the Atheist Experience. I'm doing it a little less because of traveling. Right. I'm doing lectures, debates. I'm doing the magic show. But I'm also rebuilding the studio that's in my house, and I'm thinking about, and the Atheist Debates videos. I'm also thinking about starting up an additional podcast that is a one-on-one interview discussion. So it'd be like having a caller, but we know who the caller is and what the topic is ahead of time. and we just, can we knock this out in 30 minutes and not do, an hour and a half?
Very cool.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's an obsession or what, but I enjoy doing it. I feel like I never feel like I've done enough, so I keep doing more. And when I get burnt out, I'm done.
I wonder if I take everything and I try to run myself through that same filter, and I wonder if my experience is going to be similar, because one thing that sets me apart from most of the other content creators I've been talking to is apparently everyone is tired of Josh Feuerstein, and I'm sad he went away. So
did he go away?
He's still got the Facebook page, and I'm going to be doing a video, what's Josh Feuerstein up to, but he mostly just shares silly Republican memes that are on the extreme side. I'm not saying Republicanism is silly, because this is for a nonprofit and I couldn't say that, but his content represents the far alt-right kind of thinking. And he's not. So my character, Mr. Atheist, in my show, Dear Mr. Atheist, is because he started his evolution video with, Dear Mr. Atheist, first of all, let me correct you, because evolution was not a science and never has been. Why? It was never observed. So he is very much the inspiration for the character and show, Dear Mr. Atheist.
So I haven't followed his stuff too much. I have to acknowledge that I am probably an oddity. I've been hosting this show for 14 years, and in that time, there are lots of other atheist shows that have both come and gone. Mm-hmm. There are people who have come in the movement and been just on fire and excited and then fizzle out. Right. There are also apologists that have appeared and disappeared throughout the time I've been on the show. But there seems to be a never-ending supply of them. So I will continue.
Yeah, absolutely.